All right. Good morning, everyone. It's always good to have you all here with us. I know the house, in terms of the incarnate's a little bit empty now, but a lot of people tend to come a little bit late. Uh, the workers of the last hour always come a bit late, but they will come. But we know that spiritually we have a full house, and we are here all together today to learn a little bit more and to hear our lecture from our friend Raphael. That's going to be talk about death and perispirit, right? So it's a very interesting topic. And a little bit of technical, but first it helps us to understand a little bit more about the spirit, right? Because we're always talking about our bodies and our spirit, but we forget that there's something in between there, helping us as well. But before that, we're going to have Maria Lucia helping us with our initial reading and our initial prayer today.
Good morning. So the reading is from Happy Life by Joana de Angelis, Spirit, through Divaldo Franco. The conquest of knowledge is a personal achievement non-transferable. It is a treasure that is always multiplying itself when it is shared, and nobody can usurp it from who possess it. Not even death can take it away, because it continues with the spirit who has it, constituting a treasure of constant value and easy handling. Work hard to acquire it. Never think it is too late to start this enterprise. Increase it if you already have it, or start if you have not already experienced the pleasure which comes of it. The man who knows acts with more confidence and saves himself from countless suffering. On the other hand, ignorance is responsible for innumerable ills. Let's close our eyes and think of Jesus, our Master, and all the good spirits, the mentors of this house, who are here to inspire us today. Let's ask them to open up our hearts, our minds, so we can understand today's teachings. Bring them into our hearts so we can practice it in our daily life. We thank again all the mentors who are here, and so be it.
Hey guys, morning.
Good morning.
What a wonderful day to talk about spiritism. Another Sunday. So the topic today is death and perispirit. So you'll notice that especially the topic of death, we talk about several times a year in, year out, and that's it's not a coincidence. We know that that doesn't exist, but it's because the understanding of the mortality of our bodies and the immortality of the spirit, it's extremely important for our mental health and for us to use properly our time while incarnated. So we had a few weeks ago Susana Simões talking about death and aging, which is very, very important. So I'm going to touch up, bring back a few of the concepts that she talked about. And I'm going to bring some different approaches. But as I said, it's a very important topic, and you listen to it. If you come to our lectures, there will be different approaches all year long. but it's something that we always talk about. So the first thing is the anxiety that comes to us that is brought by the fear of death. Depending on the person, that anxiety is so high, it's so great that it prevents life from continue on. So how interesting that is, that we stop living because we think too much about our death, and then we find ourselves not wanting to do things anymore. What's the point? I'm gonna die anyway. And we see that more and more. So we see, especially seniors. Sometimes we hear the word old people, but I don't like that terminology, because if you see, if we live 80 or 90 years old, we spend 20% of our life growing up, and then 20% as grown-ups, and then the other 50 as old people. So it makes no sense. So the terminology is wrong. So we are growing, and after that we're adults, so we are grown up. So there's the concept of being old it makes no sense to me. It's just we mature and then we live the rest of our lives as grown-ups. But especially when we take the average lifetime of a human being, and then we see that what we had behind us is larger than what we have in front of us, and then we start thinking, oh, that's the direction I'm going. And then we hear people saying, I have only a few more years left, so what does it matter? That related to learning, I don't want to learn anything new. Or why would I care that much about family or friendship or romance? Or that's something that I heard a few days ago. Why would I care about climate change? I won't be here anymore. I just imagine the surprise of that person of coming back as a newborn and having to leave the whole thing. So I believe that this is one of the most important contributions of Spiritism, is to show us how wrong those thoughts are. How it does not belong to the main mental mindset of the transformation that we are going through. So we cannot think about one life anymore. We outgrew that. So we need to understand that we are spirits. We have a material body, and that material body is a blessing. And we embrace the aging, as Susanna said. We embrace the death of the body as a blessing, as I will continue developing this concept throughout this lecture. What we are today, we will be tomorrow beyond the grave. It is not going to change. We are what we are now, and the only thing that changes is the progress that we do spiritually, but we'll still be ourselves. We'll still look as ourselves because of this thing that we call perispirit. So we'll still be our individual, but we will be alive. The family members that we know and friends that are on the other side, they're still alive. We talk about them in the past, but that's just because it's a cultural thing. Because we have been thinking about living only one life for too long. So that is embedded in our culture. But that's why we are here to start changing that. We don't, and more importantly, we can't die. It doesn't matter what we do. We can't die. That's not an option. That's not a possibility. We won't die ever. That's why that's one of the first things that Kardec did. Well, actually, it was what convinced him. It's the existence of spirits and the identity of those spirits. Who are these spirits? So it was a completely different new law of nature that he discovered, and he codified, and he wrote his books. But it was the first thing, and that is what unveiled everything else. But the entrance is we are immortals. We are immortals. We can, however, choose not to live. We can choose not to live. And I'm not talking about suicide. I will develop this concept further. But before going there, the knowledge continue on the fact that we choose not to live. We choose not to learn new things. We choose not to develop friendships because we don't have many years left in this life. The knowledge that we acquire, it's accumulative. So we accumulate that knowledge. We never lose. So if we lose something in the last 2 years of our incarnation here, it's going to remain with us. We don't lose it. We never lose any knowledge. What happens is that when we come to a new incarnation, depending on our spiritual development, our brain has to follow the limitations of that spiritual development, our new brain, when we incarnate. So depending on that, we're going to remember what we know, more or less. Sometimes, which is very happens very often with us, we don't know that we know until we are immersed in that same environment, and we see how easy it is, how everything makes sense to us. So we see that a lot in science classes. We have that guy that guy knows everything. So easy to him. I'm here studying 8 hours a day, and that person doesn't even study. Comes straight to class without studying and takes an A and gets an A in the test. He didn't study now, but he studied before. How would you explain Mozart playing at 4 years old, playing piano? At 7, he was already writing his own symphonies. He knew that already. Or Gauss, Frederick Gauss. At 5 years old, he was correcting the math from his dad that was an accountant. Oh, Dad, you made a mistake here. Barely knew how to speak. You made a mistake because he knew it before. So we accumulate knowledge. So it's something that should never prevent us. The fact that our body is going to decay and die one day should never prevent us to always learn something new. It doesn't matter. And something even more important, friendship. To maintain and develop bonds of friendship, and make a new friend, to continue participating in society, to continue living your life. Once we feel that even more when we discarnate, because conquering a friend, nourishing a friendship it's a credit towards us. It's a sharing and developing bonds of love, and that person thinking about us and remembering us with a good thought, it goes straight to us. And we feel that much more on the other side that we feel here. Because the heavy matter of our material body, it creates like a numbing sensation. But when we are only with our perispirit, still looking the same, but we are more raw. We are very sensitive. We saw in the movie and the book Nosso Lar when André Luiz, there was one patient that he treated with charity. So if you guys remember, he was always thinking about money, but there was one patient that he treated for free. And that patient used to pray to him when he was undergoing his suffering on the other side, and he would feel that, and that would bring him strength. From what we learn in Spiritism and from the books of the very André Luiz, we see that once we mature as spirits and we reach the level of pure spirits, the bonding, the friendship, the love that we have as a community, it's what nourishes us. It's we're always going to be connected to our family and friends. We were going to live that 24/7, and that we were going to always be feeling that the communion with God and ourselves, all love. So we're going to get there someday. So it doesn't matter what part of life we are. Knowledge and love, it's something that we should never cease to seek. It's something that is always, we should never refrain from continue nourishing it. And as Susanna said, the aging of our bodies, that's, as I said, at 25% we grow, and then after the 25% we start getting old. So it's like in a very short time we reach our peak, and then it's a long time decay. And that's why is that? So is that a punishment? No, it's not a punishment. This is because body is a vehicle. It's not supposed to be our goal. We can do sports, we can exercise, but we'll see that it's a part of our life. It can't be our goal, because after some time it's going to start hurting, and you see that I just can't do it. There's nothing I can do. It just hurts too much. I can't do it. I can't run as I used to run. I can't jump as I used to jump. And we see young people doing it, and yeah, okay, good. I have no interest in doing it. Just please go ahead. We outgrew that. So now we are more important. We are more interested in things of the mind, in things of the spirit, in the reading a book and drinking my coffee on the porch, contemplating life. That's aging. It helps us to spend more time looking at life instead of rushing through it, as young people normally do. A lot of energy, a lot of vital principle, and always rushing, always running. And then at some point, I don't have that energy to run anymore. I have to walk, look around, enjoy the little moments. And that is a blessing. Joanna de Angelis says this it tells us in the Happy Life that old age is a blessing from God, because we have the opportunity in here, while incarnated, to reach the state of contemplation of life and understand the importance of family, and see how much more important than material things love is. So, going back to the fact that we can choose not to live. I'm not talking about a suicide. As I said, we can't die. It doesn't matter what we do. Suicide is like Canada in the winter. You are inside. There's a huge sun outside. It's beautiful. And you look out the window. Oh, I'm going to drink a coffee sitting on that chair in the backyard. One of those days that there are no snow. The sun is beautiful. There's even some green, and you think that it's going to be good on the other side of the window. And then you open the door, everything freezes, even your eyelashes, and your organs, they go inside your body. It's like, I can't believe what is happening. And then you close the door. That's like suicide. You think that, hey, the other side, it will be better, and then you do it, and your suffering is multiplied by 10. It's terrible. So when I say choose not to live, it's not about suicide. It's opting not to work, not to love, not to do any contribution of any kind. Forget your own progress. You forget your own communion with God that Jesus used to talk so much. Is how do we commune with God? How do we unite with God? By following His laws of progress. Law of progress, law of society, law of justice, law of charity, and participate in whatever it is. Participate in your house, participate in your community, in your job, uh, in your family, but interact, because that's our nature. If we choose not to do any of that, if we want to just do like animals when they reach a particular age and then they disappear, they walk away because they're walking away to die, and then we isolate ourselves in a house or whatever situation that we completely isolate ourselves, then we are forgetting that we are still or will always be important. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. We are important to society. We're important to someone. If I'm not discarnated, if I'm still here, it means that I still have things to do. So it's if I choose not to leave, if I choose not to progress, it's a very dangerous choice, because it's going to force nature to push me forward, because I don't have that option. I don't have that option not to be happy. That's interesting. I will be happy even if I don't want to, if I'm full of self-pity. I will be happy. And if I don't want to, and I want to choose not to leave, nature is going to set my feet on fire. Now I want to see you stay, you not move. I want to see if you'll be able not to move if you're on fire. So, and necessity makes us move forward. So we can only stay on that situation for a very short time, because we're not supposed to. And that's the only way, the only situation where we say that we are choosing not to live. We are choosing not to be what God created us to be. And that can happen in another situation where we focus our thought in revenge, in anger, and we forget everything else. We forget all the other things that happened in our lives that makes our life beautiful, and we only concentrate on that one thing. And then we can progress, we can move on, we can contribute, participate. And we discarnate on that situation, and we continue with that when we are on the other side. So as I said, the Perispirit, we are what we are here and what and there, and the Perispirit gives us our individuality. If we have that kind of thought, if we decide not to live when we are discarnated, or we continue thinking like that in the spiritual plane, we'll see that we start changing. We start changing what makes us us. And when I say change, I mean change in the form. Why is it that animals, they cannot remain too long in the spiritual plane, and they reincarnate very fast? The shape, to remain the same shape that we have when we discarnate in our perispirit, it's we conquer that over the evolution through the kingdoms of nature, developing our individuality. So If I'm a spirit and I look exactly the same, the shape of my body, my face, is because that's what I know I am. I have that in my thoughts. That's how I see myself, and that's how I look. So the perispirit reflects my individuality. If I forget who I am, if I forget I'm a human, if I forget how to live, I start losing my shape. I forget that I have arms. I forget that I have legs. And then we have that very sad situation of ovoids that we read so much in the spiritism books, which is like almost spherical shape. Because we shrink into that single thought of revenge or self-pity, and then what has to happen is that it gets to a time where God says, all right, that's enough. So you've been behaving like as a spirit or child for too long. You've been stubborn and rebellious for too long. Now it's time for you to move on. You're going to be forced to find your happiness. So then, since we forgot what it is to have arms and legs and to have a human shape, then we have to start reincarnating several times so that I can remember. But why do we have to reincarnate? Because the process of reincarnation, a little bit of biology. So we have, through a process called meiosis, we have the sexual cells, masculine and feminine, right, from the male and the female, the sperm and the egg. But when they join together and then they form the zygote, then another process starts, which is mitosis. And then the cells start by the power of two. So the cells start multiplying 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, and so forth, so on. So during the formation of that body, the perispirit, our perispirit is there. Since the choice is not a coincidence that from millions of sperm cells, only one will enter the egg. That's because that's the one we attracted, because that's the DNA that is going to form the body that I need. So that is the one that is attracted by my perispirit. So this means that from the moment of conception, the spirit's already there. It's a lengthy process, and then that when the body it's multiplying its cells, it creates the invagination that will later create our spine. The perispirit is there in every moment, and if that perispirit it's of a spirit that is still relearning how to live, and it doesn't remember exactly how to grow a pair of healthy arms, that baby will reflect that problem. So then we'll have to go through several times of the process of building a new body until we remember what it is to have a healthy body. And then we know, we understand, why is it that we see people that have deficiencies, physical deficiencies and mental deficiencies. That is God giving us the opportunity to do it again, to rebuild ourselves, to learn again the beauty of living, to understand life, and to stop being so stubborn and pouting like many times the spirits say that we are spiritual childs, and it's the same thing. Pout in the corner, like half a lip out of the mouth. That's what we do, and that's what God had. Those are the mechanisms that God brings to us to make us understand. In the Gospel of John, there is a lesson that we all talk about. Most of us know. In chapter 3, from verses 1 to 6, we find Jesus talking to Nicodemus. And in the book Boa Nova, Humberto de Campos, he brings more details about that lesson to us. And he starts saying that in chapter 14, he starts saying that Nicodemus was a Pharisee, but he was not a bad person. He was a very good-hearted Pharisee, and he wanted to be better. He spent all his life studying the laws of Moses and the prophets, and he saw in Jesus God. He knew that Jesus came from God. And one night, he waits until Jesus retires, and it's only with two apostles. What are the name of the apostles? Andrew and James. That's why we know today about that lesson, because they wrote down. So then Nicodemus go to Jesus with a good heart, with an open heart, and he says, Jesus, I know that you come from God. I have no doubt. So what I want to know is, how do I do? What do I do to reach the kingdom of heaven? I've been studying all my life the prophets and Moses, and I still don't know it. And Jesus, of course, he could see miles inside of Nicodemus. He knew who Nicodemus was. That's something that we forget very often. Jesus is the governor of this planet. He knows all of us, deeply. We can say, well, how can that be possible? Well, you put millions of years of spiritual development, and we see it, a manager, then becomes a supervisor, then a director, and then a CEO or whatever, and there's more and more people that person is responsible for. And that continues in the spiritual world. Of course, that is just a small example to make us understand. But Jesus has the capacity to love and to know every single one of us deeply, and he knows it. So when Nicodemus approached it, he knew who Nicodemus was. And he said, the problem is you have been studying the law, but you don't feel it. You don't feel it yet. You don't know how to apply to your life. And that's true for us here in Spiritism. We can read all the books of the codification. We can read André Luiz's books, all the books from Chico Xavier. And that gives us a lot of material. But we'll only really understand it when we try to apply in our life. We've been talking about death and the respecting and how aging is a blessing. Okay, let's apply to us now. We are all aging, all of us. So in our week to come, how would that make me feel better? How would that make me make better decisions for my life? So would I be rebellious or angry with God because my knees hurt in the morning, because my back is stiff? So would I be envy of a young person that can do things that I can't? That is an exercise. And then we remember the lesson and we try to learn it. We try to really feel it. That's the whole purpose of us being here and why we repeat things so many times, because we need to feel it. And he said that to Nicodemus. And I believe that he saw more. He saw that Nicodemus could understand more. If you apply a little bit more, that's what I imagine Jesus saying. If you apply yourself a little bit more, you will understand more. A lot will be asked from those who know a lot. So that's why Jesus was kind of strict with Nicodemus. because he knew that that guy could do more than what he was doing. And then he continues, and he sees the spiritual development of Nicodemus, and he says, you won't be able to see the kingdom of heaven if you're not born again. It's not a curse. It's not a punishment. He was saying, you have a good heart, but you still have a lot to learn. And you won't be able to learn in one life. You're going to have to come back again. And most of the population of this planet will have to come several times. And this is not bad. So imagine this. What if, instead of reincarnating several times, we would reincarnate only once? And we're going to live and learn everything that we need to learn in one very, very long life. Several centuries. Like a 3,000 years incarnation. Without going back to the spiritual world and kind of refresh ourselves and see our family and be without pain for a little bit, and then come back refreshed. So imagine those two situations. It could be possible, of course. Everything's possible to God. But no, he decided to give us a short life and make us die several times. And that, if we think it like that, we welcome it. It's a good thing. It's a blessing that I'm going to grow old. I'm going to pass away. I'm going to go to the spiritual realm, which is it's our place of nature. It's our original place. I'm going to work. I'm going to learn, do courses or whatever. I'm going to see what's out there. I'm going to prepare better. And I'm going to come back and learn a little bit more. Then another short life, die again, go back to spirit. How good that is. So this is awesome, really. There's no other way of seeing it. The other situation would be live for three. So some people think that would be good. We see in movies that, I become an interview with the vampire. I become a vampire. I get really pretty. My hair grows, so that's awesome. And we'll live for a long time here on earth. That's not good. That is not good. To have these several incarnations and dying several times, it's a very, very good thing. Very good thing. We just have to internalize this and bring this to our lives, our daily lives, and think about it every day. Joanna Gengeli says in this small book here, there's a lot of things in this small book. Think about death. Meditate. Don't forget that you're an immortal spirit, but your body is mortal. Think about that. Don't forget that. That gives you perspective. And another thing so Jesus was saying that we have to do that over and over and over again to reach the kingdom of God. But it's not a kingdom of God is not a place. That it takes that long for us to purify ourselves from the pettiness of our spirits. These small things, the anger that sometimes we don't let go, learning how to really forgive what other people do to us, forgive ourselves, not feel self-pity about the suffering that you're going through. Once we overcome and we make ourselves light, and we are able to live with a clear conscience, that's when we get real communion with God and we are in the kingdom of heaven. It doesn't matter where we are. It's built inside of us. God doesn't have a place where he is or she is or it is. Everything is God. And God is in everything. So the kingdom of heaven is built inside of us, or we have to build it. And that's why we have to come so many times. Then we're going to reach the kingdom of heaven. So, of course, Nicodemus thought it was a place. And then we say, oh, yeah, but it could be a colony. It could be Nasular. That could be called that heaven. Those colonies are a consequence of the spirits that join there, and they all have the kingdom of heaven inside of them. So wherever they are, something good is going to come out. If you have a lot of good people in one place wanting to do something good, that place will be a good place. But that's a consequence because they bring the place together with them. I'm being poetic right now, but that's what it means. They have that inside of them. So wherever they are, flowers and trees and water and whatever is going to show up because that's who they are. So all those concepts, they have a convergence point in the perispirit. Because as I said, the perispirit, it's what maintains our individuality. We continue to be who we are. If we discarnate and we are going to, and we meet an old friend or a family member on the spiritual plane, we're going to recognize that friend. Maybe that person is going to look better, younger. That's because that spirit prefers to show up that way. There are spirits who go in the other direction. They prefer to continue with their aged bodies. They show themselves as with an aged body because that's what they want to do. That's how they identify themselves. Maybe during their old age, they had insights that made them much happier than in the young age. So they keep that, and they present themselves as with an aged perispirit. But there's no age there. There's at this time there's no limitation. It's just how that spirit prefers. That's his or her identity. And the perispirit has an interesting characteristic. It is plastic, but when I say plastic, it's not the matter plastic. We call this plastic, but plastic it's a property of matter. Plastic deformation, it's that deformation that doesn't come back. So it's like you press and you take your finger off, and the print of your finger it's there, it remains there. So we have elastic deformation and plastic deformation. Every material has both at some point. So you apply force and the material responds with an elastic deformation, and you remove the force and the material goes back to the original position. After the force reaches a particular threshold, it becomes plastic, where you remove and that deformation will continue. So the perispirit is plastic. Everything that we go through gets stored in the perispirit. Everything. So our whole existence, as far or even further that our imagination can take it. So we have no idea of how much data we have in us right now. Why cannot we access it? Because remember the meiosis and the zygote, when we were at that stage, our spiritual level only allowed us to develop the brain that we have today that cannot access that far. We cannot access all that data. It's because of this brain. Once we lose this brain and we don't have to exteriorize our thoughts using this modem, and once we discarnate and we are free, then it's a matter of permission. Why permission? Because sometimes to go too far in the past and remember what we did, it could have a very serious impact in our psychological health. So if we imagine this, we all know that today we are a little better than 10 years ago, right? And you guys agree that things that you know today, actions that you take today, are better than 10 years ago. 10 years ago, you look at, if I knew what I know now, I wouldn't have taken that route. And then you take, okay, 20 years ago, it's even more clear to see. 30 years ago, the decisions that I made 30 years ago, or when I was a teenager. So at that time, I didn't have the wisdom. So I wish I had the wisdom I have now with that body. That would be great. Now you take 4 centuries. 4 centuries. How were your decisions there? Or 1,000 years. How were your decisions there? That's the law of progress. That's very good. That means that we're always progressing, we're always growing. And this means that we are every year a little bit happier. Every life we are a little bit happier. But then we go 1,000 years back and we would do things that will make us really, really hurts us. And I can't believe I did that. I can't believe I hurt people like that. So first, we need to really understand who we were and that we were learning. So we will need to learn to forgive our past self. That's a huge, that's strength. Learn to forgive yourself. So until we reach that point, we will have the capacity to access the data in our perispirit, but we won't be allowed to. There's like a firewall that it protects. And it can only be accessed over a firmware update. And that firmware update, it's after you reach a particular level. So, and as I said before, our perispirit is much more sensitive than this body. So we capture thoughts of love from friends and family. So we are very sensitive to that. And we capture that, and that can actually heal wounds. What wound? I'm dead already. Well, it's the wound of the soul. So it's you carry that. So as I said, what you are now is what you're going to be later. So you carry that wound with you. It says a wound that hurts in here, and your perispirit responds to it. So then you look at the discarnated spirit, and it has like a wound here in the stomach. But it's what is unhealthy is the thought, and that materializes in the perispirit. The perispirit responds to us for the good and for the bad. So that's why we feel love that is sent to us from relationships that we ourselves nourish it. So we have that credit. Every friend, every family member that remembers us with love, it's a candle. It's like a point of light that will help us, and that we lighten it. We turn it on. That. So that's very important merit point. And on the same token, when a friend or a family member discarnates, and we get desperate, and we suffer, we grieve, and we cry like crazy, it's natural to miss a person. It's really natural, and sometimes that's overwhelming, and we cry. But there's sadness in missing a person, and there's despair. Spiritism will never take away the pain. It does. The pain is there for a reason. What's going to happen is there cannot be despair, because now we understand. We go through the pain and we process it, but we don't get despaired or desperate, because we know what's that for, and we know it's going to end, and we know what's in the future. So when we get desperate and we don't let it go, the person who has discarnated feels that too in the perispirit. So much so that sometimes they have to be put to sleep. The mentors or the people who take care of that spirit, it puts the spirit to sleep, because there's no way that spirit is not strong enough to feel out from family members and not suffer. So they cannot move on. They want to go back to their house. And if they go, it's one blind guiding the other blind. They're only going to get hurt. So they are put to sleep. So that's why the perispirit, in the same way that it forms our shape, it feels the love from our family, it also feels pain from those that we love. We are always in contact. And that's why, so when we pray, so someone discarnated and we pray for that person really receives that. That spirit will really feel that. It's like a boost, like a balm that suits the soul, literally. So, just to finalize, we are immortal spirits, and we should welcome the blessing of aging and passing away. It's a blessing for us. It's much better than the other choice, as I said. So it's not something that we should fear. It's something that we should prepare for. As Susanna said, something that I don't forget, and I should start looking to it. She has everything prepared. She bought the place, the tomb. She has everything paid. So if she passes away, it's very easy for those who stay. There's a very clear way to dispose of the material body. Chic Xavier, those who lived with him, they say that one day he woke up and he liked to be shaved with a blade. So then he called the person who used to go to his house to shave him, and the person said, "Hey, I'm not in Minas Gerais right now. I'm somewhere else. So I'll be able to go there in the afternoon." And he said, "Too late. No. Can you send somebody else?" Yeah, sure. So then another person came, shaved Chico, and he went, took a shower, put his best suit, his best shoes, laid on his bed, and said, "Thank God," and he passed away. So he knew that will be, he had only a few more hours, and he wanted to make everything ready. So he even put his so the guys that live with him tells this story. So he even put his hands like this. So you don't have to, no work for anybody. No, I already did what I have to do. Now I have to go, and I don't have to leave anything behind. So it's that's the way we should see it. That's the change in paradigm. We can see how much we are loved by our Creator, instead of keep thinking that we are punished and death is a bad thing. We have to continue participating. If we are here, it's because we have a duty to continue. So we do everything we can while we are here. When it's time for us to go, we go the best way we can. There's one paragraph that I like a lot from the book After Death from Leon Denis, where he says, "Let us then bid goodbye to the theories that picture death as an outlet into nothingness, or as the prelude to endless torment. Farewell, then, you dark phantoms of theology, you relentless creeds, pitiless condemnations, and excruciating torments. Farewell. Make way for hope and for life eternal. Behold, from out the tomb there rises not a dark mist, but a shining light." Thank you, guys. Oh, yeah, I have to stay here.
Thank you, Rafael, for a great lecture. Do you have any comments or questions on the internet? And how about here on this group? Do you have any comments, any questions? Yes?
Thank you, Rafael. It was a really nice lecture. I'm in this process that you're mentioning. I'm having a lot of reflection now. And yeah, you mentioned about the importance of community, friendship, and this is something that I battled since I came here to Canada. And this is why I'm in the process to think, oh, I'm going back home because there I still have my network, friends, and from 50 years ago, 40 years ago. I don't want to say my age. But yeah, this is one point. Other point is like, oh, yeah, the body is getting a little bit weaker, but still, can run, can swim, can get up on the airplanes, all those kind of things. So I say to myself, I have more life behind me than in front of me. So let's celebrate this time that is still here and do things. This Monday, I call a lawyer to start to do my will, to start to do my power of attorney, all this. And to be honest, I was a little in panic. It's not easy, even though we know, and I have met people that have bought their plot, and they even showed me the clothes, everything that they wanted to. And I said, I know that I'm going to go there, but I'm not ready to buy my clothes and, to be there for when I go. It is very conflicting sometimes. I know that is the way to go, but it's still, I'm progressing slowly. But yeah, and this is what I wanted to comment anyway.
Yeah, we all go through that. That's why Jesus was saying that it's not enough just to read about it, but you have to try to apply it. And you have to be born several times because he knows that it's not from one day to the next, or even from one life to the next. It takes time for us to learn those things and to detach ourselves from the culture of the past, where we live only one time and we are going to nothingness. There is still a little bit of that inside of us, and that's what creates this huge sadness that we feel. Anxiety, yeah. And it's not going to be that fast the change, but just the fact that we know, it's a huge door that opens. And we just have to strive now to continue maturing. But that's the path that we all are going through right now.
And I think that's the anxiety that creates the difficulty to talk about or even to do a will, right? I have a friend at home whose father's about my father's age, probably 80 now. And he sees dad, do the will. It's much easier. There are 4 kids, how it's done, and he refuses because he thinks that if he talks about the will, he's talking about death, and it's gonna happen. So like, it's gonna happen regardless, with the will, without the will, it's gonna happen. But for him, it's like it's calling death, right? And death has the meaning of the end, and that gives the anxiety. So I better not talk about, not even do the will.
Yeah.
It is changed this mentality now, I think, because I have my will done, and I did like a couple of years ago. And because I also have to remember that, yeah, we are gonna age. Yeah, you grow up, then you become an adult in your early 20s, and from that moment on, you age, and it can go anytime, right? So now I see more and more couples, which I think it's to be rational, like, and be a little bit realistic, who as soon as they have kids, they do the will. Because if anything happens to us both, I want to have a clear path of what to happen with my kid, right? So I'm a POA on someone's will, because as soon as the baby was born, they created everything in case of both of them, because it can happen. Some kids lose both parents in a car accident or in an airplane accident, like whatever. So it can happen. So I think people start to get a bit more rational these days and be able to talk about it, and realize that it's not about calling death. It's about being prepared in case it happens, because it is going to happen.
Yeah.
And we don't know when, right? We don't know when. But that anxiety that came from this centuries of idea that is the end brings it, so we don't want to talk about it, right? And I work in a hospital, and I see the difficulty that we have to talk about the one thing that's the only thing that's 100% sure from the moment that we are born. That's the only thing you can count on it 100%, is that we all gonna one day lose this body, right, and pass away. But we still have our time, but it's changing, and it's understandable. It's understandable that anxiety, but it's changing.
Just for me, it's something that when I was in Brazil, I never thought about.
Yeah.
I was younger.
Yeah.
But since I came here, it's something that I was always thinking, if something happens to me,
Yeah.
I have nobody here.
Yeah.
Yes. Nobody.
Yeah.
Nobody would even know.
Mhm.
So that is something that is always was in my
Yeah.
in my mind. So we have to have someone. Look, I'm traveling this week. If something happens, can you call someone? Those things that I start to think. I'm not weird, but it's something that can happen.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I saw this with my parents these last 3 years. And it's something that.
Yeah, we need to be prepared, because it's coming.
Just adding, for the preparation, we have to remember the power of care.
Yeah,
That is also very important, right? And sometimes we don't know even about the existence. And as Teresa said, we can die anytime, and we also can be sick in a hospital and get stuck in there without no communication. And somebody needs to make the decisions.
Yeah.
Right? And
That's another point.
we are all on the same boat.
Yeah.
We never know when we get off.
And it's good to have someone who knows what your wishes are for when you can dare, and you cannot talk, have a tube in your mouth to say, this is kind of a care they are. Or
Not
hey, they're
necessarily
organ
that you are
donors.
gonna die,
Yeah.
But you can be stuck there for a long period of time. And somebody needs to know what you want.
Our attorney for
For care.
and financial.
Financial,
Yeah.
This is what
That's
the
very
lawyer told
simple.
me.
Yeah.
You can find on the
Yes.
internet for free.
Yeah.
Just fill it out.
All right. Any other
Anyway.
comments?
Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's
Very
it's true.
practical
Yeah,
person,
practical.
Rafael.
all right.
I
So
have
think,
only-
yeah,
Just-
yeah. Please go ahead.
Do you think that getting older is a preparation for death, like to mental preparation?
It depends. Well, it depends on the spirit. In general, people say that when we study statistics, that you can never predict what one person will do, but a million people is almost a certainty. You can't predict where they're gonna go. But so you can say that in general, yeah, That's why your body it start failing you. So you want to do things, but you have to do differently now. You have to do different things. That's because it's designed. So why is it that our cells are always multiplying? We don't have always the same cells. The cells they come back. So we always have new cells, but the cells that come back, they're already old cells. It's a mechanism inside of the cell that tells the cell you're going to multiply and you're going to create another old cell. So it's like we have a clock inside of us, and that's because it's for us to understand that this vehicle, it's just a vehicle for the spirit, and you don't put all your eggs in this basket because it's gonna rotten and disappear. That's your aim is the spirit, and overall, people actually we talk about anxiety and many mental health issues that we have when we think about death, but overall, people get happier when they get older because they understand more the importance of things in life. They have the material means that they have been working for most of their lives, and they see better the importance of family and friendship, and looking and enjoying the world around. So as an average, people actually get happier.
I think it's a little bit related to what you said, right? Imagine if we got older, but we get without the body aging, we
Yeah.
always have that high energy, and
Yeah.
you're never gonna have that like have those lessons that only come with the aging of the body, right?
Yeah,
Like I said, we'll never stop to look around because we always be hyped.
now it's rushing.
Right, yeah. It's tiring just to think about it. It's good to slow down a little bit. All right. So thank you, Rafael, again for your
Thank you,
lecture. It
guys.
was amazing. I want to thank everyone that was with us over the internet today, and hoping to see you back next week here with us.